Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draws are very important, and they give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to GoHunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card for GoHunt.com Gear Shop. Remember, when you become a member of GoHunt.com/insider, you're going to get a $50 gift card to Go Hunt Gear Shop. What's in the gear shop? The best gear that you can buy for hunting the West. All in all, if you're hunting out West in 2018, GoHunt.com/insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com. Hey, folks, we got a new sponsor. It's called Buckwild Coffee. What's so special about Buckwild Coffee? Well, a gazillion people go to Starbucks every day and drink coffee. Well, why shouldn't Buckwild Coffee offer you light, medium, or dark roast with free shipping? All you have to do is go to whitetailrendezvous.com, go to shop, and order your coffee, and I'll ship it out for free. Hey, thanks so much for visiting Buckwild Coffee. The best brew in the West, the best brew around the campfire, the best brew in the hunting shack, the best brew anywhere. Buckwild Coffee. Get yours today. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host, and we're heading out to Missouri. We're heading to the home of Redneck Blinds, and we're going to talk with TJ Pugh. TJ is the director of marketing for Redneck Blinds, and TJ, as in the warm-up, we've been talking about a lot of things, folks. So take some notes, and some of the things we're going to talk about, you're going to maybe question or say, I don't know if I would do that. Well, listen to the whole thing with an open mind, because things are changing in the whitetail woods about the ability to do all-day sits, the ability to have kids in stands, the ability to have veterans in stands, or people like myself that got some screws in their body, and we'll share a story about one of my friends at KO Farms that he can't sit outside below zero, and now he can. So, TJ, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bruce. Thanks for having us. We appreciate you inviting us on the show, and we look forward to talking hunting, and hope your guests enjoy it.
Well, I love talking hunting, but I want to stay right where we were, and I've got some pieces in my body that don't belong there, and my friend Kenny Olson at KO Farms definitely has. And he bought some of your blinds, and now he can stay below zero, Wisconsin, gun season, and he can sit out all day in perfect comfort. Why? Because he has a propane tank into a furnace on a thermostat, and he keeps it right around 40 degrees. And let's talk about the ability of your blinds and other companies' blinds that allow people to be comfortable yet still hunting. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, kind of like what you mentioned. It's hit the nail on the head. The hunting world's kind of changed, and the blinds are becoming more and more popular every day. And just for that reason, because they allow older gentlemen, and also on the opposite end of the scale, younger kids to be introduced into hunting and to let them hunt longer. Like your friend there, if it wasn't for our blinds, he wouldn't be able to hunt, or at least not hunt as comfortably as what he is right now, or as long. The blinds let you hunt longer. They, like we had mentioned earlier, the younger aspect, we want to introduce kids into hunting as much as possible, and our blinds are great for that. I have a 6-year-old daughter who just loves to go out into our Redneck, our crossover models, which have the vertical windows in the corners. We were the first company to do that. I mean, now you see them everywhere, but we're kind of the innovators. And my daughter, when we're in our 6x6, the Buck Palace with those vertical windows, it just, you wouldn't think about it, but little kids with your typical four-walled square box blind with horizontal windows, it's hard for them to see out of those. And with that vertical window basically spanning from the floor all the way to the ceiling, they get the full field of view. They can see everything, take everything in, enjoy it, and it just really, really helps introducing kids to the outdoors. And like you said, on the other end of the spectrum, your friend who, happens to be a little bit older, had some surgeries, it lets older people enjoy their hunt and be out there much longer. Whereas if he wasn't in a blind and he was just sitting on the ground or in a tree stand, he may only be able to hunt for an hour, if at all. A lot of the people we talk to, they can't even get up in a tree stand anymore. So our blinds with our easy ladders and the handrails and everything that helps you get up there easier, just lets them, it lets them keep enjoying the outdoors. And we're proud to do that. We hear the comments too, that's not hunting and blah blah blah. And we disagree. We think it is. And I mean, the people out there, there's that crowd, but then there's also the other end who, I mean, our sales say that's why we're here, because people love our blinds. And I mean, we're known to make the good blinds, and we're just going to keep on making them and let people keep on enjoying them. So.
Yeah, I should have really prepped the show and had Jason Aldean's riff that he kicked off for you guys. He hunts in your blinds, and he had a riff, but the watchword today is get the redneck advantage. And what was his? The Cadillac redneck.
They all kind of have their own tagline, but Jason's was redneck is the Cadillac of blind. Like we mentioned, the one that really started it off, our first big testimonial, was Willie Robertson, and his was ain't nothing redneck about redneck blinds. His dad Phil said rednecks are the Taj Mahal of blinds. Everybody has their own tagline that they like to use. And those are some of the more famous ones that are used quite often. But the one we use a lot now is get the redneck advantage. Because if you have the redneck, you have that's just kind of a good tongue-in-cheek tagline. It's a redneck advantage kind of sums everything up. So.
And let's talk about that advantage. Folks, we are going to talk about hunting, but I want to bring this show up because this is part of your preseason. This is the preseason preparation, and that's why TJ and I are having this conversation, and there'll be conversations coming from Whitetail Rendezvous June and July about preseason, prep. And it isn't just, putting in your food plots. It's going out, making sure your stands are set up, you're shooting, you get all your gear. I mean, there's a whole mess of things that come in the preseason. But as far as we're going to stick on the blind situation right now, when you get a redneck blind, let's say the tower blind, the Buck Palace, it takes a while to set up. Or do you have people come up and help them set them up? Talk to me about the whole process. I call you up and order a redneck Buck Palace.
Right.
So what happens next?
We don't offer setup anymore. A lot of our dealers do. It just depends on what dealer you get it from. But let's say you just call and order directly from us. We would deliver it. You would be responsible for basically setting it up yourself. And if you've never done it before, you can expect to spend an afternoon. It's not hard. It's just going to take a while. I mean, us who have done it a lot, we can do it in an hour and a half. But for the person that's never done it before, it'll probably take them an afternoon. You can, probably about 4.5 hours. But once you get it up, like you were saying, this time of year, with everybody getting ready for hunting season, prepping food plots, spraying and plowing and all that stuff, now's a good time to go out and check your blind. And with our blind, which I had mentioned to you earlier, and I'll let all the guys out there listening now know, our blinds include a little checklist now, an off-season prep kind of checklist, if you will, that's on the bottom of the windows. It's a little window cling, and it basically has like 10, 11, 12 talking points that you want to go and check and make sure that you do during the off-season every single year. Check your hinges, make sure those aren't squeaking, check your gaskets around all your windows and doors, make sure those are sealing properly and nothing has chewed on those. With our blinds being fiberglass, nothing's going to chew on the blind itself. Rodents and stuff won't chew on that, but The only thing that they will chew on is that rubber gasket seal around the windows and the doors. So you need to check those. Your vents, make sure those are working uh, properly. Um, Underneath the roof, they have an overhang on our blinds. It's about a 2-inch overhang, and sometime wasps will build nests under those. You need to check for that. But now's the time just to go out and kind of keep the dust off your blind, make sure everything's working properly. So when the fall comes, it's ready and good to go. So yeah, we're getting lots of phone calls of guys, and now is actually a good time if you're interested in getting a blind. Right now is about when our busy season starts. It'll go now till basically the first week of November. You'd be surprised of the guys that call and want a blind that day. They're, my deer season starts next week. I need a blind now. I want it tomorrow. And they get a little disappointed when we tell them, well, we can't do it that fast. But now's the time when a lot of guys will be calling to get that blind if they don't have one. They'll be setting it up, on the edge of their food plots while they're working them this time of year. And now it's just basically a good time of year to get ready and plan and get that ready for the fall.
So the blind arrives, and me and a buddy, we got our tools and probably sockets and screws. Anything else? Any really special tools you need?
Everything's specified in the instruction manual. For the stand, it's all one size nut and bolt. It's all 7/16. So if you have a wrench and a socket, 7/16, you'll be good to go. You need a shovel to level it out. A level, if you want to get very specific and make sure that it's level, but usually you can just kind of eyeball it. But you do want your stand to be level, because if you don't level it, then your stair is going to squeak. Your ladder, when you walk up it to get to your platform, it'll squeak if you don't have it leveled. You need to make sure you have it leveled. But just your basic tool, 7/16 wrench, a hammer, a ladder is good, in case you forget to put your strap down cable. One of your anchoring positions is up in the middle, and a lot of guys forget to do that when it's on the ground. So a 10-foot ladder is always nice to have. But all of that is specified in the instruction manual. But if you want to go over the steps, when it's dropped off, you don't have to have equipment. But if you have like a tractor with forks or a skid steer with forks, it will make the job easier. Work harder or work smarter, not harder, that old saying. But it's not necessary. You can do everything by hand. With a 10-foot stand, you and a couple other friends can basically walk the thing up. You can push and pull it up with just 3 or 4 guys. You don't have to have something to pull it up. And everything's included. The instruction manual comes with it. And when you buy your blind, there's like a beginner's packet that is on the door. It includes your warranty card, some instructional how-to literature is on there. So we try to prepare our customers as much as possible. And when you buy our blinds, our customer service comes with it. Not only are we known for basically top of the line in hunting blinds, but our customer service is also top notch. If you have anything wrong, need anything, have any questions, you call our phone and a person is going to answer here in Lamar, Missouri. You're not going to get any sort of machine or get the runaround. A lot of our competitors, you're lucky if you talk to anybody ever. Typically, you're going to have to leave a message, and you're lucky if someone calls you back. And that's not the case with us. We take care of our customers. If 5 years down the road you have a blind and you need some weather stripping for your window, if you call us, we'll basically just send that out to you. We do our best to take care of our customers, and that comes along with the blind when you buy our blind. So we like to stay on top and be on top when it comes to that sort of thing. So that's all comes with it when you get our blinds.
So how many sides are to the? We're talking about the buck palace. How many fiberglass sides do we have to put together?
Yeah, the buck palace on the crossover models, which is the 6x6 buck palace, the 5x6 predator, and our new 6x7 big country. Those are all our crossover blinds. Those are for crossbow, vertical bow, compound bow, and gun hunting. Those are octagon shaped, like a stop sign. It has 8 walls, and in the corners it has the vertical windows, and on the long side it'll have the horizontal windows. So they're all basically octagon shaped. We do offer a couple other blinds, a 5x6 and a 6x6, or excuse me, and a 5x6 and a 5x5 that are basically for gun hunting. They don't have the vertical windows. They're your typical square 4-wall horizontal window box blind. So with our line of fiberglass blinds, you can get a 5x5, a couple 5x6s, a 6x6, or a 6x7. Those are all the fiberglass blind models we offer, and you can get those on any 5, 10, or 15-foot stand.
So 15 foot's up in the air.
Oh yeah, yeah. And it's true. 15 foot is foot where your feet will be. So your eye level, if you're 6 foot high, that's going to be 21 feet up there. A lot of people, when they see our 15-foot stand, they're like, "Holy cow, that's where my 20-foot stand is." We're like, "No, your 20-foot stand's at 15 feet." It's kind of deceiving when you really see how high 15 foot is. But most people get a 10-foot stand. When you're hunting in our blinds, you don't have to be just real super high unless the terrain dictates it. Unless you need to see over the rise of a hill or something like that on a field, most people get a 10-foot stand. Just for some reference, on the Redneck farms here in Southwest Missouri, out of, I don't know, 40 or so blinds, there's probably only about 3 that are on 15-foot stands. The rest of them are all on 10-foot stands. If I like to bow hunt. I mainly bow hunt. If I'm bow hunting out of a tree stand, I want to be 20, 25 feet up there when I'm in a tree stand. When I'm bow hunting out of our fiberglass blinds, I'm on a 10-foot stand. You just don't have to be so high. Our blind, it contains your scent. It hides your movement. Like anything else, the same with hunting out of a tree stand. As long as your entry and exit route is solid and you're not going to scare a lot of deer or wind deer and alert them to your presence, you don't need to be super high. A 10-foot blind is going to be plenty high, especially with ours. With keep your background solid so you don't get silhouetted. Keep your windows closed unless except the one you have to shoot out of, and it's pretty rock solid. As long as you can get in and out without scaring deer, you don't have to be super high when you're hunting out of our blind. And we get pictures all the time of customers that every year that prove it. So it's pretty solid.
No, I know on some ground blinds, well, most of the ground blinds that I put up, I brush them in.
Yeah.
And I brush them in.
That's true with our blinds. I have been in a blind that had only been up for 7 days. Missouri's gun season is right in the middle of the rut, and I was hunting a blind on the Redneck farms that had been up for, I think, like 6 days, not quite a week. And I had a real nice 4.5-year-old, like a 150s type 10-point, run directly under that blind. Now, if it wasn't the rut, would he have done that? I don't know. But typically, like I said earlier, we want the guys to put them up this time of year so the deer can get used to them. After a specific amount of time, they're just going to treat it like farm machinery. They're going to be used to it. It won't bother them as much, but they do need that time to get used to them. But after that, it won't bother them at all. That's why I should have mentioned this earlier. Also, besides our stands, we also offer what's called a trailer stand, where if you have a utility trailer, it just needs to be basically 5x5. We have a 4-foot stand with a 5-foot ladder, and those are becoming really popular. One of the shows we work with, Bill Winky, Midwest Whitetail, a few years ago, he shot one of his main deer that he was after that year out of our trailer stand. It was a 6x6 buck palace on a trailer stand. And since that, popularity has kind of gone through the roof, if you will. They're extremely mobile, and it allows the consumer to get a lot more use out of the blind compared to just a standalone, 10-foot stand where you can't move it. If you have it on that trailer stand and you leave it on the farm so the deer are used to it, if you move it from one side of the field to the other, it won't bother them. It'd be just like if a tractor was sitting there. And that style of hunting on the trailer stand has gotten really popular. And that's one of the ways I recommend to a lot of our consumers that call in the this new trailer stand. It's becoming pretty hot, and you'll see a lot of hunters in the next couple of years utilizing that. It's becoming quite popular.
So let's go back to that. I'm enamored because, a lot of guys run and gun. You hear that a lot, but all of a sudden you're in a fixed stand. You're in what I call tower stand. You call them palaces, whatever I call them, tower standalone stands. But now with that bit of information, you can run and gun. What do I mean? Typically your farm, you have access points for your food plots. So you got trails, ATV trails, or tractor trails, right?
Yep.
Now you've got something that can pull that stand around, and you can place it in different places depending on what's happening. I'm a big proponent of long distance scouting. So you're in your buck palace, let's say. I'm just thinking of strategy now, and you see over half a mile away a ridge that's still on your land. You go, dang, I saw him in the morning, I saw him at night, then I saw him the next morning. What do I want to be tomorrow night?
Yep, exactly.
And where do I want to be? So now I jump into my ATV or whatever. You pull that stand over to the appropriate place, and you hang it in there because he's kind of seen it. He's seen that piece of apparatus before. It's not new, and so you don't do anything but get in there early and see what the heck happens. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, and that's exactly what the example I used with Bill Winky and Midwest Whitetail. That's exactly what he did. He saw this deer he had named Lefty. He saw Lefty on this field. They cut the corn. He went over there, put that blind up, and the next day, or it may have been the same day, he shot that deer. I mean, that is exactly the example you gave is what happened in that hunt. And I mean, since then, I've gotten emails and photographs. We've had another show, a couple other shows we work with have done the same thing. Like I said, it's when word starts to get out, especially after Bill shot that and he had an episode about it. Like I said, in the next couple of years, you're really going to see that. It's becoming extremely popular for that exact reason. Because if you leave it there, like I said, the deer is going to view it as basically farm equipment, like an old rundown tractor or anything else you see on a farm. If you move it from one side of the field to the other, it's really not going to bother it. And I'm talking mature deer. I mean, the one he shot, I think, was a 6.5-year-old deer. I mean, it's really going to, not to use a cliche, but it's going to be a game changer. It's really going to help. So
I was looking up at Sharon's screen. I should have done more prep work because that would have been a good thing to show the people right now. and we might have to come back to that. We might have to do
yeah. Well, I can
remind me later.
If you want a picture, I can send pictures or whatever we need to.
Yeah, but I'd like to see that because we could show with the software we're using. I mean, we could play it right now, and the people would see it. Hunting has always been hunting, and people killed deer from just sitting on the ground with a back to a tree. That's what I killed my first deer with. But when you think about it, the techniques, and that's why I like loving talking to guys like you, because you hear from all these different sources and go, well, that's how that guy used it. Dan Johnson, Todd Pringnes, Wicked Tree, and Dan Johnson, Nine Finger Chronicles. Those are the first two guys I talked about running and gunning. And, long distance scouting, they won't be hunting. They'll just be in the woods, seeing what's going on. And they'll pinpoint a deer. Then they go, boom, they'll put up a hang on. And like it's not, in 2 or 3 sits, they get their deer down, or, the game's over and the deer won and they'll go someplace else. And so what I'm trying to help educate people with the show is change up what you're thinking. I know we got a concussion stand on our farm. We've killed a lot of bucks off that stand. Pallet stand, the point stand. I can't tell you how many bucks we killed during the gun season because it's a natural funnel. It's escape. Right. They're going to come off the ridge. They're going to bail down to the river, and they have to come through here. There's no other way, that they can get through there. So we've killed a lot of deer there. But, that's okay for those stands. But all of a sudden you want to say, okay, there's other deer on the property. How do we get to them? How do we hunt the deer we see in the trail cameras, but come season, and everybody's seen this, he disappears. Mr. Wonderful disappears. We're talking 4.5-year-old deer, and he's been there like clockwork. He's got everything. He's number 2 or 3 or number 1 on your hit list, and then he's gone. He's just abandoned, and he's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah. and so
No,
you have to find them.
yeah, yeah. And that's part of the fun of it. I do this. If you said Dan Johnson uses that, lots of people do that. I for one do it as well. Basically, do your scouting from afar, and then what I like to say, 3 strikes and you're out. If I see that deer in that spot 3 times in a row, I'm moving in on that fourth time, and me and a lot of people hunt that same way. And and like you said, it's either successful or it's not, and a lot of times it is. But if it's not, then that's just part of the fun. That's why it's hunting. That's why we enjoy it.
Yeah, but it's amazing how some people don't, because habitual. They're in their habits. They get their 40 acres and they have the same trails 2 and 4. And
Yeah, my uncle's a good example of that. He has certain places that he hunts and he won't hunt anywhere else. Which that's he still enjoys it, and that's what he wants to do. So more power to him. But yeah, I'm always elusive, like the elusive. Want to find the one that everybody's after, and once I find the one that I want, that's the one that I'm going to shoot that year. So it's everybody enjoys their own thing, and more power to them. So
yeah, and that's what's exciting about hunting. I shoot a crossbow now, and so I talk to Excalibur. I shoot Excalibur crossbows. So they say I need to be 6 inches away from the window. TJ and I are back together again,
yeah, we're gonna get it done, Bruce. Don't worry, we'll finish her up.
one way or another. But
Yeah.
what I was talking about, I hunt now with a crossbow simply because I can't pull back a compound anymore. And I use an Excalibur, and those folks up there said I need to be 6 inches from the window, just the way the limbs flex and everything.
Oh,
And so, is there any markers, or is there any way you can make sure you don't get overly excited? I never do. And the buck's right there, and you get too close, and it's just going to go bang, and you could really destroy your limbs. Actually,
yeah,
that'd be the worst case, or the next worst case, maybe you miss your shot.
yeah.
But talk to me about hunting inside a blind, because a lot of guys haven't hunted inside enclosures. Yeah, some box blinds, and you put the rifle up and you pull the trigger. But I know shooting a compound on a box blind, even with slotted windows, is tough, and crossbows is difficult. Just because you have to be aware of your surroundings. So help me.
Yep.
Let's walk through that. Let's walk through crossbows and compounds and rifles or muzzleloaders.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. You want to be careful using a crossbow or a compound or traditional bow out of a blind. You talk about hitting the wall. I have done that. I was shooting a doe, probably the last deer I shot before I got sick. Been a couple years ago. I shot her out of the vertical window, and I was too close to the blind, and my top limb hit the top of the wall there. Luckily, it didn't do anything to my bow, and didn't hurt my bow or the blind. And she was close enough. She was like 5 yards away. I didn't miss her. But no, it can definitely happen. So you need to keep that aware in your mind when you're shooting. Make sure you don't get too close if you're bow hunting to the wall. Now, if you're crossbow hunting, depending on which window you're shooting out of and which blind you have, it may or may not be a concern. We recommend for crossbow hunters either our 5x5 trophy tower, our 6x6 buck palace, or our 6x7 big country. All of those have the oversized horizontal window. It's I think like 36 inches wide. It's almost 40 inches wide, and I believe it's wide enough to fit almost any crossbow on the market can fit through that. Even your Excalibur with those wider limbs, I think still. Do you know how wide your Excalibur is? Is it?
Well, they've shrunk them. My original Ibex was like 36. I'm down to I think 24 inches now. They're small. I mean, they're just they're really small limbs.
Yeah,
and
I
have
a Raven through one. Raven have those really compact crossbows,
right.
And I think that they have them. But yeah, the crossbow blinds which we make specifically for crossbow hunting are the 5x5 trophy tower and the 6x6 and the 7x6. Those are basically all of our crossbow blinds. And they have that extra wide window. Now, when you're gun hunting, Most people are going to use the horizontal window when you're gun hunting because they're going to use that bottom of the window for a rest. A lot of people do, and we have a gun bag rest that you can lay on that window just for a good solid rest. The main thing to make sure is when you're gun hunting that the barrel of your gun is outside of the blind. For one, so you don't shoot a hole in the blind, which we've had people call in and say they've done. And two, if that gun goes off inside the blind, it's going to be so loud. I mean, it'll break an eardrum. So just make sure the barrel is outside, and almost on the opposite end when you're crossbow and vertical bow hunting, make sure you're far enough away from the walls inside the blind that it won't affect it any. So yeah, there are some things you need to consider when you're bow hunting, and really the best way to do it is practice. That may or may not be practical for some people, but I learned a lot the first couple of shots I took out of the blind. Like I said, that doe I shot shooting out of that vertical window. From now on, you can bet your bottom dollar that I make sure I'm not close to that wall of the blind when I draw back. So there are some things to consider, but overall, it's makes hunting a lot easier. So and enjoyable.
The things I found, unique shooting sticks and a monopod, and there's a lot of
Yeah,
brands out there, and with my crossbow, it just fits right in there, and the limbs aren't outside, and I'm sitting back,
yeah,
and it just, if I have to stand because of the angle, you still have a firm rest, and that's the biggest thing that I see, shooting out in blind, do everything off a firm rest,
yep.
and
Yeah, I
your
do the same
success
thing with
ratio.
my daughter. When I take my daughter hunting, we use a field pod rest where basically the gun just sets in it and she doesn't even have to touch it because she's 6 and her arms are quite a bit shorter, than an adult, and she can't reach all the way to the end of the stock where you actually would need to hold it. So that rest helps her make a good, steady, ethical shot. Yeah, they're really handy and easy to use inside those blinds.
Now you mentioned scent control, because we're in a fiberglass shell, but we've got to control our scent going and coming, and it seems to me that our entrance and our exit is probably the most critical thing when we're using a blind, because if it's an evening hunt, you're out there, the does and everything are out in the field. How do you get out of there without busting them off the field?
Yeah, no, that's definitely something to consider. Like we talked earlier, the blind's going to contain your scent once you're in the blind. But yeah, you make a good point. You need to make sure that your entry and exit is solid. Use a dried up creek bed, or a lot of guys, if they're on the edge of a field like what you're talking about, they'll plant some sort of a screen with vegetation, like real tall Egyptian wheat or something like that, to make an actual organic, natural screen so the deer can't see you. As far as getting in and out of the blind and not spooking deer, if they're real close, my best advice is to just wait. It may be dark and you may have to sit there, but just wait till they move off. And once they get far enough out, then you can try to get down. But a lot of guys will brush in their blind. You have to clear a spot when you initially put it in, but once you put it in, you can plant some sort of vegetation, like I said, that Egyptian wheat to help your in and out. A lot of guys will just cut like cedar trees or something like that and put it around the base. Troy Landry, I don't know if you know the swamp people, Troy and Jacob Landry, the shoot 'em guy.
No, I
Um,
don't.
he has a show on the History Channel. He's pretty popular, but he has a farm not too far from here, just across the border over in southeast Kansas. And over on their farms, they cut big, 5, 6 foot cedar branches, and they actually zip tie them to their stand and their handrails on their ladder. So all the way up and down, they're concealed when they get up and down out of their blind, and that's a pretty good idea. I've seen a few people do that. We don't do that on the redneck farms, but on his redneck blinds on his farm, he does that on just about all of them, and it seems to work pretty good for him. So that's another thing to consider. Just anything that you could do to basically hide your movement with some sort of vegetation or otherwise is going to work quite well. And just make sure that they're not close. I mean, I've had that happen when I hunted out tree stands too. It gets dark and there's a deer 10 yards out there. If you don't want to scare it, you just wait and make sure it gets out there and then just be quiet. But if you have a solid entry and exit, then that's half your battle right there.
One thing that comes to mind, with your setup, wind isn't as critical when you're in the blind, but it sure as hell is critical coming in and coming out of your blind. So you got to think about that. And then because of, the big blinds aren't, you're not going to move them. You can actually, create an opening, for them so you have natural vegetation around them because you should have a good idea what direction the deer are going to come from or the shots that you're going to have. And that should be given. Yeah. So, and plan it. I mean, actually, do a floor plan, get a piece of paper, a piece of graph paper and think it out because you could set it up so you never are in the field at all. You come down out of your stand with some covering, and there's plenty of covering. Go to a good seed guy and say, I need some covering for my stand. I want to put screening covering. I think that's the terminology they use now for screening, and a lot of guys are doing that.
If you ask for that at any co-op, they're going to know what you're talking about. So yeah.
Right, and so do that. Then enter and exit through the woods, which the deer aren't going to use, and then your odds are going up because I know some people that put it out there and they'll put it sort of kind of right in the middle of the field, and they wonder why they're not seeing deer. Well, the deer are busting them when they're coming in the morning, and out if it's a big field, and you got to think about this, strategically. And I think sometimes, TJ, people don't do it. They say, oh yeah, I'm going to get this blind. It's never going to be good. And, I can sit there all day, and all you do is sit there all day.
Yeah, and not see anything. Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, you don't just get the blind and plop it up. There's a lot, in order to do it right and be successful, there's a lot that goes into it. Like we just talked about, the way you get in and out is like the main thing. You got that's, you may want your blind over at this spot in the corner of this field where the deer always come out, but unless you're on a trailer stand and you can get on your four-wheeler and pull it over there, you never touch the ground. That's a way to do it. But if you're walking in and out, you're going to alert the deer, and eventually after 2 or 3 times, they're just going to stop coming. So, I mean, where you put your stand and how you get to it is one of the most important things you need to consider for sure. Yeah.
Now, do you have quote unquote stand placement consultants? So I call you, say, hey, I want to blind this blind. Great. Here's my Google Earth components. Here's my food plots, or here's the funnel, the pinch point, or whatever I'm doing. Do you guys ever do that?
We as Redneck don't, but we work with a lot of companies that do. That basically offer a complete package. They'll come out to your property, give you a consultation. Somebody who I know that you've talked to, Adam Keith and Matt Dye over there at Land and Legacy, they do it. We work with all kinds of management. Each state has their own. Guys like Adam and Matt, they'll travel across the nation. Grant Woods, we work with Grant. Grant does the same thing. But we also work with a lot of guys that are real big in their states. There's one in Georgia. I can't think of the name of the company, but he does the same thing. Basically, they're just land management consultants, and they have their own, management company, and they'll go to your property, just like you said, and okay, here you have this field here, that's good, but we can also clear this brush and put a food plot here, and here's where you need to put a tree stand, and these 2 spots are good for box blinds and that sort of thing. So yeah, we don't do that ourselves, but we can definitely refer somebody if you're looking to have that happen. So.
Well, guys and gals, we're almost on an hour of this journey today, so I'm going to wrap it up. TJ, how does somebody get a hold of you or Redneck Blinds and talk business?
Yeah, if anybody listening is wanting to get a hold of us, they can go to our website, which is redneckblinds.com. They can look at all the different blinds we have to offer, or they can call us here in the office. Like I said, when you call, a person's going to answer the phone. And that number is 877-523-9986.
DJ, we got to do this again because, we've got, just a
Yeah,
lot
for sure.
to talk
Let's
about.
do it. So,
Yeah.
well, I'd like to do it again. Hopefully we can get it where we don't have so many problems.
Well, I'd like to do it, and let me wrap this one up and thank thousands of listeners. And, there are a lot of blind companies out there. There are a lot of good companies that build a good product. The thing I know about T-Days Blinds and Redneck Blinds is, one, they've been around a while. Two, they're rock solid, and I can't, my friend Ken Olson is able to hunt in below zero weather because of Redneck Blinds. So, what more can I say?
Yep. And we appreciate it. Thanks for having us, Bruce.
All right, man. Gotta go.
All righty. See ya.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.